Welcome to BS Session 117. There seems to be no better fitting quote for times like these than the penguins from Madagascar when they finally reached Antarctica. Well, this sucks.
This right here has the ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
You're listening to your weekly dose of BS, Ballistically Speaking. The Ballistically Speaking Podcast.
I did
You're just
start out
quoting
looking
the-
for a more fitting quote, and then that YouTube short popped up, and I'm like, that's it. That's what we're going with.
Those penguins are they're quite the bunch.
They make the show.
And that about sums up how everybody's feeling right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's putting it mildly.
So definitely like you showed up to Antarctica at times.
Yeah.
So
Well, we can always look forward to greener pastures.
mm-hmm.
Jen, thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be back.
I'm glad for you to be back to explain all of the things that most people probably don't understand and should understand better.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, a lot of confusion.
That's yeah. Let's get the bill paying out of the way, shall we, Derek?
Yeah, let's get some unconfusion there. If you want to be unconfused about your rifle and how to use it, book a course now with Callsign 66. Callsign 66 is Canada's best rifle training. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Book a course now at callsign66.ca and follow them on Instagram at callsign66 and on Facebook at C/S66.
And we also have Ripstone Gunsmithing, craftsmanship done right. Contact Oscar at ripstonegunsmithing.ca and breathe life back into any firearm.
We're also brought to you by March Scopes Canada. The Dion optical design line of rifle scopes has a scope for all your hunting and shooting needs. Find Doug and Niza at marchscopes.ca.
And Apex Optics. When you buy Apex, precision comes standard. Check out all the fine competition rifle scopes, red dots, and binoculars at apexoptics.co. And just a quick note, if you're wanting to buy Canadian, Apex will cover the shipping worldwide directly from... They're not going to cover the shipping. They are shipping worldwide directly from the Calgary warehouse. No tariffs, no duties, no hassle.
There, a little bit of a clarification there.
I just typed that up like half an hour ago, so I apologize.
I can tell. EM Precision Rifles in Bakerville, Alberta, building Canada's finest precision rifles. Find Shane and Steve on Facebook, Instagram, and on their website at emprifles.ca.
And also, we are brought to you by Bolt Action Coffee, bringing specialty coffee to the precision shooting world. Order coffee and merchandise at boltactioncoffee.com. You're up there.
And we are also brought to you by Odell Engineering. Pick up a Canuck shotgun or Bergara rifle from your local distributor and tell them Phil sent you. Look them up on Instagram, Facebook, and on their website, odellengineeringltd.com.
And last but not least, we have Sterling Arms International, home of the R18 Mark III, soon to be available, hopefully, and the R9. Contact them directly at sterlingarms.com. Look out for the R9 arriving to a store near you, as supplies are limited. They are going fast.
Act now.
Act now. Buy two.
I mean, right now. I mean, if there's a gun store that's still open near you, once you get in the vehicle and drive there. That fast.
Or, Saturday's a nice day to go.
Yes.
Waste some time.
Speaking of seeing some of our lovely sponsors, for those of you in the Southern Ontario area, it is the Toronto Sportsman Show this weekend. all the best to those attending that. So
I heard that's a massive show. Never been. I've always wanted to.
maybe next year.
I mean, I like TACOM. TACOM was nice. So, Jen,
Yeah.
tariffs.
Wild times.
Uh,
Any yeah, so I guess I can just sort of start with where the businesses stand, if that works for you guys, just so that people can kind of have a better idea as to what they're dealing with.
Yeah,
let's
that's-
start off with that.
Yeah, definitely, please.
So it really sucks because there is a lot of confusion right now, a lot of uncertainty. So much is changing. And the trade ministers and everybody that we talk to is still trying to figure it out for themselves. There are, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to find what is the code there? One of the tariffs. Okay, sorry, I can't find it, but even like the customs brokers and everything like that, they're trying to figure out how these tariffs are working, and it's really the retaliatory tariffs that are hurting like the consumers here and a lot of our industry, and I don't think people quite realize that. I think that a lot of people are like, oh, it's Trump's tariffs that are making everything skyrocket, but I mean, there's just so much ammunition, so much firearms, so much equipment that comes to us from the United States. So businesses are kind of in limbo right now. There's a lot of orders on hold because we don't really know if the tariffs are going to, lift tomorrow or what's going to happen there. So everybody's at a standstill. The good news is that supposedly there was an amnesty placed on anything that was already shipped whenever the tariffs were announced.
Okay, yeah.
So we're not really seeing the impact yet on orders that are coming in, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
The crappy thing is, of course, if this goes on for too long, stores are going to have to start bringing stuff in, distributors and stuff bringing stuff in that's being tariffed, which is going to skyrocket the prices for absolutely everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then another very unfortunate thing is, I believe it was early this week, they placed tariffs on other sporting goods, which impacted fishing and archery, which wasn't previously impacted. So, I mean, these poor outdoor stores that sell, hunting equipment, fishing equipment, archery equipment, like everything's tariffed.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, basically, we're working with the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, trade ministers, just trying to give the businesses some sort of guidance because, I mean, everybody's totally lost. This is very foreign, very new. It's going to be some interesting times.
So is the general kind of consensus is most from what you've heard from most business owners, are they just kind of holding off for now? That's kind of
that's what I'm hearing from the vast majority of people that I talk to. Everything's just kind of at a limbo, on hold. They just want to see what's happening because we've seen so much flip-flopping over the past month or so as to what's happening with the tariffs. It's constantly changing. It's just so, I don't know, like volatile right now that it's kind of hard to gauge what's going to happen.
Joel Anthony Thompson, I am numb from tax.
I think we all are.
I think that's the statement of the show for sure, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Have you been getting much like help from the government, like the bureaucratic side, where they're trying to figure it out? They're like, you're on your own. We have other things to worry about.
Yeah. We do have some meetings booked with some of the conservative trade ministers, but unfortunately, regardless of sending emails and phone calls, we haven't heard anything from the Liberal trade minister, who I believe just changed. So be it. I'm assuming the whole Liberal leadership race really kind of slowed things down on their end, but they're the ones we really want to talk to because they're in power right now. So yeah, it's been a lot of blanket statements coming back, kind of just automatic replies explaining, you know,
Yes.
these are the tariffs and these are all the resources and this is why we're doing it because we're fighting for Canada and fighting against America. And I'm just like, man, we just need
Mhm.
answers. Like I know how to Google what tariff codes are affected. Like, Jesus.
Yes. Yeah, so most of the
Amazing.
responses has been, let's just say, unhelpful.
100%. I'm
Mhm.
hoping that the meetings we have coming up this coming week are somewhat helpful. But maybe any bureaucrats are kind of just waiting for the change as well and not wanting to get too deep into anything.
Mhm.
So my understanding is we are putting tariffs on them for firearms, or they're putting it on
Yeah.
us?
So they did put it on us, but those were again paused. I don't remember exactly when those were paused until I believe it was early April, but Canada has not lifted its retaliatory tariffs. And the retaliatory tariffs are the ones that cost us extra when we're importing stuff from the States, which is a lot of inventory. Like it's going to impact reloading because 90% of our primers come from the States. 60% of the firearms come from the States, but then it, like, you know, sucks for the Canadian guy. Like sucks for the retailers or whatever that stock mainly American brands. And then 80% of our ammunition comes from the States. And a lot of people are very attached to their, you know, American brands.
Yeah. Yeah. Federal, Hornady, Winchester.
That's it. I mean, and I'm thinking like, okay, I've got turkey season coming up. I know I need to get some more turkey load. I need to get that like now in case the tariffs do, you know, prolong that far. And then I'm like, oh, I don't want to pay tariffs on friggin' turkey load.
Mhm.
No,
So another
those
thing
turkey
I-
shells aren't cheap either, are they?
Exactly. No, they're not.
Another thing that popped into my head, I'm not sure if you'd have the answer to this, but is it about the origin of the product? So, for example, I know Varget, the powder is, you know, obviously distributed by Hodgdon, but it is in fact manufactured in Australia.
Yes. So I'm not 100% sure on that one, but
Mhm.
it should be place of origin, but there is something like there was a certain type of scope where a percentage of it was made in, I want to say either Australia or Japan, and then the rest of it was made in the States. So they would like ship the glass over to the States and then the States would do the hardware and everything. And that made that particular scope susceptible to tariffs.
Mhm.
So maybe it's if like a larger percentage of the product is manufactured in the States, maybe if it's, you know, not manufactured in the States whatsoever and it pops into the States and pops out, it's fine. That's the thing. Like that's kind of what we're trying to get concrete answers on because there's just so many opinions out there and people
Yeah.
trying to decipher it.
Yeah,
It would be
unfortunately,
nice
it's
if
a
we
bit
could
of a.
I believe there's a powder manufacturer in Ontario or Quebec. It would be nice if we could access some of that product. But my understanding is that's military use only.
That's what I was going to say. I'm pretty sure there is one. I don't remember what it's called. But yeah, I thought they were military only, which is really unfortunate.
It'd probably only be like 3 or 4 mixtures, anyways. So it would be something, but it would be a limited,
Not a
limited
total solution.
variety. So
Not-
for your
not-
obviously your common NATO calibers would be that applicable, but your oddball powders you'd still be, I think, a little bit SOL. So
Well, it goes back to the original during COVID when all the powder was missing. It wasn't, this is my perfect load for my rifle. This is what I could find on the shelf, and it shot not half bad.
Yeah. COVID loads.
Yep. I'm still using COVID loads because I got lucky. That was it.
It's good.
Second load, I'm like, yep, keep it. It's good.
That's good. Absolutely. That's what's, you know, kind of unfortunate because I think that if the tariffs do continue on, you know, well into the summer or anything like that and orders do start getting impacted, I don't know, maybe people will be more encouraged to switch to European brands. Maybe people will put a whole like halt on buying altogether. Probably going to be a mixture of both.
That's another question is obviously you may have access to kind of that information for retailers. Like obviously there is European and international brands. Lapua comes to mind, Vitavori, great rifles from Odell Engineering, Canuck, Bargara. Now I'm just curious, is there limits there in terms of supply? Like, there may be the demand to get alternative product in that's not susceptible to tariffs, but can Canadian retailers get it in quantity in order to replace what we would see on store shelves that would be tariffed?
Yeah, that's hard to say. I guess that's another thing to consider. I personally don't imagine that would be an issue. Like I imagine those importers would hopefully be able to, boost their import numbers to provide to the retailers, but yeah, not sure.
No, that's totally fair. So, and also, again, there might be a strain placed on those international manufacturers.
Yeah.
As well, because it's not just Canada that is being affected by the tariffs. I know between the United States and the EU, there's also some back and forth currently. So
for sure.
But we need to like buy more British and French stuff because they're gonna come protect us with their nukes.
Obviously. Support.
The irony of what she said, I'm like, we realized back in the 70s, we did actually, Canada had access to nuclear weapons in the 70s. And then Pierre Trudeau said, you know what, we don't need these anymore. Which we got from the US, but that's besides the point.
Just like his son decided that nobody needs firearms anymore.
I don't agree. Catherine McKenna, not too long ago, we need to have a civil defense force. And then like 2 days later, we're like, oh, by the way, here's another gun ban.
Yeah, exactly. When I kind of looked more into her definition of like a civil defense force, it just sounded kind of like, I don't know, weak, like people just being, well informed about how to fight climate and all that nonsense. Like, I'm just like, I don't know, man.
Fight the
civil
clouds.
Defense did used to be a thing, but it was like back in the 50s.
Isn't she the one that's famous for saying that if you say a lie loud enough and enough times, people will start believing it?
I think she was copying a German fellow, but I believe that was the sentiment.
Yeah.
So let's get into that a little bit. Obviously, about a week ago, we had another OIC banning mostly the M1 carbine, which is mostly a antique military surplus.
That's it. It's all these like, your grandpa's guns, like all the guns I see the guys coming out to the range to do mill shoots with. It's
chambered in a cartridge that was allegedly so weak it couldn't puncture Chinese uniforms in Korea.
I don't know where they pulled that list from. I'm scared to see what the original list looked like before they kind of whittled it down a tiny bit. But that's just insane. And I know I saw this question floating around. Some people thought that the ammunition itself was prohibited. You can still buy the ammo. You just can't buy or use the gun.
Yeah, 1A Beach and those collectors and veterans gangs are a real threat to our streets.
Well, that's it. Like, there's so many collectors with these guns, or people that want to collect,
or have significant history that you can't get back once it's gone.
That's it. 100%. The history that's there, even the value of the collections.
It's like, oh yeah, my grandpa brought this back from Europe when he defeated Germany. Like, oh yeah, we're just gonna melt it now. That's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And those particular guns, the amnesty for that is March 2026, but everything else is still the October 2025 date. Like, just
Mhm.
Yeah, they
so
didn't
much
even
nonsense.
bump everything up together.
Exactly. There was so much, like, everyone's like, what? Okay, so now we have to like piece through all these different firearms to see, what I can still what I can still have and what I can't as of this date.
Mhm.
At
I want to
least be
kind of,
consistent.
yeah, I want to kind of chime in on that too. One thing um, about the latest OIC is, ironically enough, it was kind of disappointing in a way, in that obviously it's bad for gun owners and it's not making Canadians any safer, but it was essentially banning 150 variants of one rifle and then just leaving hints of what's coming next.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, why are you death by 1,000 cuts? If you're gonna cut my arm off, just swing
Just
with the big
do
axe.
it. No,
Stop
absolutely.
stop going at it with the small, Swiss Army knife, pocket knife that's kind of dull and is only about an inch long, and gnaw away at multiple little pieces, and then pull out the little tiny scissors on the Swiss Army knife and then start nibbling away.
Just get the
Sorry.
fascism
Sorry.
over with already.
That's it. It's like they're just taunting us, though. Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, as soon as they release those statements, saying, we're going to do a press release this day, this time, they just probably love watching everybody scramble and go crazy on social media, trying to figure out what it's going to be and what's happening, and arguing with each other.
Yeah, one AB chimes in. See how they didn't ban the SKS as not to upset Indigenous vote before the election coming up. Rest assured, if they get a majority, they'll finish off the rest, Indigenous or not.
I totally agree.
Mm.
Yep, I can definitely see that happening. I wonder if they're going to make, I wonder, I bet they're going to make guns like a big part of the, election debate wedge issue again, because I mean, throwing this ban out there right now, and then they're going to be going after magazines. We're going to see proposed regulations anytime this month.
Mm-hmm. So that's also, it's a kind of a, my observations of it is, it's obviously right now the biggest issues facing Canadians, trade uncertainty with the United States, is a big one. Obviously, there has been a big pushback against taxation and the carbon tax, and obviously, just today we have officially a new prime minister. So I think those kind of refocus Canadians' attention, which is good and bad. It's good in the fact that you actually have a rather concrete set of issues that are a large main focus. If you didn't really have a main focus, it's easier to get sidetracked on small niche issues,
Fair.
really, for the minds of most Canadians, which I would mostly classify gun issues, unfortunately, as. For the majority of Canadians, it's just not their main issue.
We are the minority. Yeah, a lot of Canadians just don't care
Yes.
about the gun issue.
Yeah, affordability, a long-term outlook, trade, are definitely still larger topics. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that it also that uncertainty may unfortunately draw the, I'll call it, split voters, those that would be able to vote blue or red, unfortunately drawn to the red, because unfortunately when it comes down to it, the red is more willing to throw money at problems for the short-term gain rather than long-term benefit. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my observations, just throwing it out there. So
I'm gonna push back on that a little bit. Since Toronto is experiencing beyond records of gun violence, the topic of self-defense is starting to kind of weasel its way into the mainstream a little bit. Not much, but it's slowly creeping up there. So I think attitudes are changing. Like, obviously, the firearms community is going to be a part of that discussion, but when regular people are saying we need to arm ourselves because there's too many home invasions going on, that's going to play into people's voting habits.
Yeah, I really hope so. I hope it doesn't like I hope there's more people that say, you know what, we need to focus on the criminals, legalize guns, and maybe defend ourselves. Than people being like, oh yeah, ban more guns, ban more guns. I mean, by now they've got to know that's not the solution.
I mean, look, thanks to Trump, he did get one thing right. He basically forced the liberals to say pretty much all the guns are sourced from the States. Also,
Yes,
none of them are here.
I know. I'm like, guys, yeah, we've been telling you that.
Like, he teed it up and served it on a platter, and I hope more people see that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yukikazi chimes in. It's also a war of attrition. The U.S. are watching intently on how you guys are being snuggled. That's a very appropriate term. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, both populations are far too civilized at this juncture. So, again, the death by 1,000 cuts bans is, I think, part of that unfortunate snuggle.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, these firearms prohibitions are just like another hit to the industry. Like they've got the trade issues and then all of the regulatory issues that are making it harder to even do business. And then these prohibitions are just completely limiting what they can even sell. Plus, they've got dead stock on the shelves. I mean, I talk to businesses every day, like struggling to stay open, people being laid off, people being uncertain if they're going to have to lay off employees, staff, anything like that. Like the industry's in a pretty crappy situation right now.
Speaking of a crappy situation, obviously phase one as part of the recent announcements of the buyback.
It is.
Allegedly has been initiated. Have businesses that have partaken in that, have they had a good time? Have they had a bad time? Have they got paid? Have they got shunned?
So it's very mixed. For the most part, I think businesses are doing okay with it. It seems that the way they had it set up was pretty straightforward. They just sort of, had the FRT list from the RCMP and the businesses go in and say what firearms they have for compensation, package them up, send them off, and then public safety at the processing plant do their thing. But if they do have questions or if they run into any sort of issues, or if they feel that one of the firearms that's on the compensation list isn't being adequately compensated because they did use some of IBM's pricing, which is a little bit lower than actual cost, then that's when businesses...
Also, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
Again, a lot of the pricing information for some of the firearms was sourced from America rather than Canada. So that has distorted certain values on certain firearms because the $100 billion we spent on the buyback program, and they can't even do research within our country.
Right. And that's what we did. Like whenever we were talking to them, we're just like, you guys do realize, like, American prices, Canadian dollars, import fees, like, and then pushing, I mean, the fact that these businesses are paying insurance on these firearms for, 5 years while they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with themselves and losing the business that way. But yeah, I mean, if they have questions or run into issues, that's when it seems to get kind of more confusing. Lots of back and forth calls, back and forth emails, I guess, until they finally reach out to us and say, like, listen, we can't get through to these people. Can you just like tell them to figure their stuff out? So that's when we kind of go like, this store needs help. Like, you guys are putting them through the ringer, get them help. And that's when it magically gets resolved after that, thankfully. Otherwise, it seems like all of the businesses say everything's straightforward.
Mm,
They're, super happy with the $250 admin fee we were able to get for them to process each gun, because we're like, they're going to have to take employees aside,
mm,
put them to this duty of logging all of these firearms. You guys need to pay for their time.
okay,
So
that's good.
for those that don't know, if a business is claiming, let's say, 100 firearms, they'll get $250 times 100 firearms to process all of that, which
Mm.
helps them, keep the
Oh
lights
yeah,
on.
definitely. Yeah, as much as admin and tasks like that is what keeps the world revolving.
Yeah,
So
that's it. So,
just
I mean, crappy situation, but at least the businesses that do need the money to stay open are getting something until we can get some sort of regulatory change to make business a little bit better.
yeah, just to kind of explain for our American audience, like we have a Yukikaza here. For real, buyback's the best thing ever. You can just make a bunch of slam fire pipe guns and sell them for mat loot. Unfortunately, that's not how it works up here. Unfortunately, first of all, we are phase one of the buyback program is directed at businesses only, not individuals. So this is directed at stock that's been basically sitting on shelves since May of 2020. And it is based on a list, the first OIC, and I assume probably even the second OIC now.
Not yet.
Not yet. So it's still guns from essentially 2019,
Correct.
2020 era.
Guns they've paid for.
Yeah, guns they paid for. Businesses are being compensated for that if they ship them back. So it's only applicable if you're a business and the manufacturer of a firearm without a proper business firearms license is a criminal offense.
Yes.
So unfortunately, no 3D printing, no slam fire shotguns.
Wasn't it
So
legal for quite a while until they just decided we're going to change how this law is interpreted? Because I believe at one point you still could manufacture your own firearm. And then they basically said if you're making a gun at home, it's obviously for trafficking, therefore it's a crime. I believe that changed under the Liberals.
Yeah, I think there was some sort of strengthening the ghost gun regulations laws for sure. And then whenever they put through the requirement to have a PAL for magazines and barrels, that of course made it a little bit more challenging for our 3D printing friends.
mm.
I mean,
one thing I wanted
blades
to
have been around for like a couple 100 years. Guys might learn how those work. Wait till the manufacturing community gets to. Oh, by the way, all your lathes now have to be licensed. Or
Yeah, well, that's like, where does it end?
I think that was actually brought up in I think it was England or Britain. Essentially, you would have to get a license for a 3D printer.
Oh, okay.
Or somewhere.
It's been talked about in New York and California and stuff. And
yeah.
I mean, it's a 3D printer. I don't want to put a pipe bomb that close to my face.
It's
like, oh yeah, there's a bit of humidity, so yeah, your Glock frame is going to explode now. Have fun.
Well, that's it. Like, I think that from what I've seen and heard from the weapons guys at RCMP, like those 3D printed guns are only good for so many rounds, and then it's more dangerous to the shooter than it is anyone in front of the gun.
Just on the phase one.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You go.
Speaking of phase one, have the businesses that have participated, have they been compensated?
I have heard from some that have.
Mm-hmm.
People don't really, communicate much about the confiscation or compensation program unless they're having an issue, to be honest, because I feel like everybody's just kind of so fed up with it. They just sort of, do it if they have to and get it out of their minds. But I have definitely heard of some businesses that have been compensated.
Okay. Have there been Have there been payment issues? Is the government not holding their word? Have you heard?
Not that I've heard of yet.
Okay.
Yet being the
So,
operative word.
so far, the government is paying their bills.
So far.
Mhm.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them. Okay. Also, obviously, I know it was contentious for some people about businesses participating in the phase one of the confiscation. Talking to owners, what is that like? On their thoughts on it. So
When I'm talking to like consumers and everything,
yeah,
it's
talking about consumers and retailers, what is the kind of thoughts behind it? So
um behind the businesses that are, going through with this compensation program. Is that okay?
yes,
Yeah, sorry. It broke up a little bit, so I wasn't sure. I think I missed
yeah,
it.
no worries.
It's super mixed. I mean, there are some consumers that are very, not as many as I have seen whenever this program was first launched, but you do see the random comments saying, I'm going to boycott any store that participates.
Mhm.
There are definitely some retailers that are totally against it, which is fine. I mean, heck, if you
Mhm.
can hold on to your guns, hold on to your guns.
Yeah,
But from the consumer side, I just think that most people seem to understand that these businesses kind of, I hate to say the don't have a choice thing, because then people always come back with the whole like COVID vaccine argument of like, you had a
Mhm.
choice. But really, I mean, if it's between getting a few guns out of your inventory, having the government pay you for them, and then you can probably rebuy those guns in the future when regulations change,
Mhm.
or laying people off where it's their livelihoods, they have families, you're shutting your business's doors. I think it's a smart business decision to
Yeah,
send in those guns, because I mean, there literally are stores, waiting for this compensation money, or else they will have to close their business. They will have to get rid of all of their employees. And we need these businesses to stay open for the entire community to stay, healthy and supplied and active, because
exactly.
we're already seeing so many stores and businesses shut down across Canada.
Well,
It
so that freed up capital is much better served in places where they can actually move
That's it.
goods.
Yeah.
So
Because these businesses are like, I've got, bills to pay, I've got orders to pay, I need to bring in new stock that I can actually
mhm.
sell. So, I mean, it's a business, they need this money.
Yeah,
I mean,
free up warehouse and storage space too.
yes, exactly. Get
Mhm.
it off the insurances policy, like all
it
of
takes a
that.
special kind of person to go and demand, you know what? You need to basically comply with my belief system that you shouldn't give any to the government. Taking literal food out of people's mouths because that's how they feed their family at gun stores.
That's it. Yeah,
Like,
and I mean, I still get flack for, being part of CSAAA, and people think that we helped the government with this buyback, when really we just made sure that the businesses were going to be compensated fairly with the administration fee, with actual proper pricing, because the list they had before was like undercutting it so much businesses would go under regardless. And I mean, like, the people on our board are so against everything the liberals are doing,
Mhm.
obviously. It's their industry, it's their community, that yeah, the businesses need to have that option. Just like we always fight to have, that freedom, businesses have to have the option to send your guns in or keep them. Like, the amnesty period is not changing, so they can still
Yeah.
keep them for.
And also, let's be honest here. Again, the main purpose of business is to make money. Just that's why we also get up and go to work in the morning. Yeah, there might be some other things we enjoy about it, but
But
ultimately,
yeah,
if the paychecks stopped coming in, it doesn't matter what your job was. Chances are you'd be out the door looking for another one. So
that's it, exactly. I mean, the homeless population's rising in Canada. We don't need any
don't need
lovely
any
gun
more.
store workers on the streets or anything like that.
Yes. So
we don't need to add to the homeless population. Buy a gun
No.
today.
no.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to see the store owners, on the sides of the roads on fentanyl, like all these homeless people now, or houseless.
Unhoused, I believe, is the
Unhoused,
politically
yes.
correct.
I couldn't remember what the new term was.
It's like it's better. No, it still says the same thing. You just wanted to change the word. It has
You're
nothing.
still
Everything
living in a
is
tent,
the
like
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
It's
doesn't
still
make the
urban
concrete
camping.
any warmer when they call you unhoused.
exactly. No, and I mean, but like for the confiscation program, buyback, whatever they want to call it, like I get people being upset, like consumers, individuals, emotionally attached to their guns. It's a principal thing too. I mean, your personal property is being taken
Mhm.
away for
Yeah.
sure. Like, don't play into the compensation program confiscation nonsense. But for stores, you got to let them make the right decision so that they can keep their
Yeah.
doors open.
The purpose for them buying that inventory was to sell it at a profit.
Yeah, that's it.
That also just supply the Canadian gun owner with a great product, but unfortunately, the government outlaws that. Their second mission of selling it for a profit is still kind of the goal. So that's 50%. Unfortunately, then that's the way it is.
And then they
So,
can get some nice new models in that aren't prohibited yet
Mhm.
and stock their shelves, pay their
Yeah.
bills, feed the community. Yeah.
We're also blessed with like everything seems to be like Amazon, massive companies. The almost every gun shop, and then the only other outlier I can think of is Cabela's, is a small family business.
Mhm.
Almost
Oh,
every single one.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, any of the CSAAA members, it's like all technically small businesses,
Mhm.
a lot of them, family run generational businesses. Like these businesses have been in the families for decades and generations. I mean, can you imagine losing that entire business just because one liberal government was extra gun angry?
Mhm.
Well, not only that, like the community has survived for quite a while, even since I would argue the 70s when you could buy some way cooler stuff.
Fair.
And most of those things that were banned in, say, 1977, the guys that are still around still have them in their safe.
Yep.
So I'm feeling everything on the OIC is pretty safe for the most part.
I would be personally surprised if they went into, to go after the consumers, the individual side. I mean, I feel like there's a reason that amnesty's set after the election.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah, I
logistical
feel that's
nightmare that not even Amazon could figure out.
Right? Exactly. I mean, and Canada Post's already said, like, we'll help with the businesses because they already ship business guns, but they're not
Mhm.
touching the individual buyback or confiscation. And I mean, a lot of couriers don't hit the remote areas, the rural areas. Like Canada Post's the only nationwide coverage. So I don't know. I think it's a lot of talk.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
the
love how we've gotten, I think the number was like 7,300. I'm like, it's a rousing success out of what, like the million you're supposed to have.
Right, exactly. 7,500. Yeah, it's like, okay,
Mhm.
well, basically you're just taking that from like, businesses that you have made desperate because
Mhm.
you guys made bad policy decisions.
Yeah. These things were sitting in a warehouse or a sea can
Oh my God, with
for the
more
last
security
5
than
years.
anybody's house. Like,
Yes. Yeah, this did not come off a street or a gang. So,
exactly. I mean, make an announcement like that when it's 7,500 smuggled guns used in crime. Like,
mhm.
Can I put a tinfoil hat on for a second? Because
yes,
everybody else seems
definitely.
to be in the
Yeah.
community. But buy shares of Alcan aluminum foil. It is the factory is running 24/7, people. I don't know if they're actually destroying any of the guns that they're getting, because when Australia when they did that ban, was it them that had like the roller compactor just drive over like a pile of guns that got turned in?
Jesus.
You don't think for a second that this government's, you know what, just put them in the sea can in case we need them later?
Well,
And
they're sending them to Ukraine.
I mean, some of them
Well,
might be
that's
useful, but
that's the
No, but
interesting thing. So is obviously in the Ottawa Citizen, they ran an article, and also in Caliber magazine, Daniel Fritter had commented on this, and and of the 3,000 plus firearms deemed to be too dangerous for Canadians, it was only 23 models were identified by Ukraine as being desirable.
Wow, I
And
didn't see
remember,
that.
yes, yeah, go to Caliber magazine in the latest issue.
I have the latest
or
issue.
Ottawa
So-
Citizen. It's in there. So, and you have to remember that's part of the first OIC where we saw literal rocket launchers,
Yeah.
which you could
Yes.
have the ammunition for. So that includes RPG 7s, Ukrainian,
My beloved
American
Javelin
made.
148 anti-tank missile.
I was gonna say,
Yes.
like, it's anti-tank guns. Those are the ones that they're saying, like, oh yeah, we could use that.
Yes, so it includes that. And also in the list, this is where I think there's a little bit of miscommunication. Ukraine's like, yeah, send us SIG handguns. And I'm like, I'm obviously, I know I like SIG handguns. So, like, obviously, if someone offered to send me them, I would take it. Don't do that. But if you do,
Don't send us the Brownings.
I don't think there was quite the same level of conversation that I think they reported was had. I think basically there was probably an email. It probably went like this. Canadian government went, hey, we're confiscating guns from our people and business. Here's a list. What do you want?
Yeah.
And then it was probably like, boop, 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 boop. And Ukraine's like, I'm not reading that big ass list. Here's the list of stuff we want.
Yeah.
And here's the stuff we'll take. And then somebody probably spent the time crossing it over and it's like, oh, there's 23. And Ukraine also wants, handguns. It's like, well, handguns aren't
Part of this deal.
Part of this deal. They're frozen, but they're not part of this deal. So
I can totally see that happening. Yeah, because there
Yes.
is no way some sucker sitting in Ukraine going through that entire list. Like, we have Armalytics for that. We don't even go through that list.
Yes, yeah. Even Canadians don't want to go through that list. So I think how the communication went down was not adequate where you reported from our Liberal government, which is no surprise. And also Ukraine said we do not want any used firearms. Because logistically, that would be a pain in the ass because you have to go through it, assess all the firearms, the condition.
Assessment,
So
spare parts,
Testing.
Yes.
instruction, like
yes,
Yeah.
where has any modifications been made? So in reality, there might be a couple hundred at most. One, like in Caliber magazine, one they brought up was Colt Canada AR-15s, or some other high-end AR-15s like Springfield Armories, which obviously, that makes sense. If you get
Springfield's not that high end.
Anyways, that's kind of my tidbit is that, so Ukraine only wants new guns and only 23
A very select few
of the 3,000 plus they have deemed suitable for military purposes.
That's it. That's just their last sort of like, oh, look, it's not a total waste. We're going to be, you guys stand with Ukraine. Well, we're going to send these guns to Ukraine. And
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was
So,
what I believe
good
with the fall
cause,
of the
right?
Soviet Union, the second most armed country in the world, only behind the
And
U.S. Third most
also,
nukes in the world.
Daniel Fritter also brought this up, I do believe, in one of our previous conversation with us, if not another podcaster, is the transfer of arms from country to country for military purposes has to be approved by country of origin. So say if I had a German-made air defense system and I'm France and I had some for sale and I wanted to sell them to, say, Mexico, I would have to get approval from Germany, the country of manufacturer, in order to sell those firearms to Mexico, even though I'm in possession. So that could also be a interrupter, because again, a lot of these firearms are American, and depending on how Donald Trump is feeling that day,
Oh, yeah.
could very easily interrupt that. So
And even like the logistics alone, I mean, they're never gonna figure that out, like
no,
ever.
so
I'm surprised Donald hasn't been. You know what, folks? They're attacking our arms industry until everything is legal. More tariffs. Like he could have been like, get more in Canada.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I
Sorry
was
for the terrible impersonation.
sort of surprised he didn't know. That was great. I thought he was in the room with us. Yeah, and I mean, like you were saying earlier, how you're like, I don't know if the guns are being destroyed. Well, I have no idea, but I definitely have heard that rumor floating around too. People are like, "There's no way."
Like
I mean,
if I was a liberal
I
staffer, I'm
wonder.
like, we're renting a bulldozer, we're finding a parking lot, we're gonna get a bunch of ministers in safety gear that they've never worn, and we're gonna bulldoze a bunch of guns for PR.
Yeah, well, I'm just waiting for those videos to come out because I mean, it seems like that's all they want. Like, it's just the big grand announcement of it all.
Yeah, like that's kind of why I'm thinking, like, are they really doing it?
They're just waiting for the cameras and
We'll be seeing a whole pile on GC surplus, right? That is an interesting website. Government of Canada surplus. You can buy anything almost.
oh my god.
They had an icebreaker on there. It was like, we want $1.4 million. And it's like next to
Joel Anthony
tractor.
brings this up. So I'll summarize this in that there's two categories of illegal firearms that come into Canada or are used in crime in Canada. There's handguns from the United States, and then there's the unfortunate Cooey and Ivor Johnson shotgun that has been molested by a hacksaw and electrical tape and maybe duct tape. Those are the two crime guns in Canada that we see, unfortunately.
The poor Cooeys.
The cooies.
Won't someone think of the Cooeys?
Everybody's got a cooey.
Everybody does. Some people have three.
I think this
I've
is
even
just...
got an Ivor Johnson here.
Exactly. I was just thinking of this. You ever look at those books that are like or a niche kind of topic or just kind of a niche photo album? Like I know a local radio station in Edmonton did a calendar as a fundraiser, and it was shopping carts of Edmonton, like shopping carts that have been misplaced or moved off property, and they had this niche calendar.
Yes.
Of
like those coffee table books almost.
Exactly, a coffee table book almost. I do believe someone should take the effort and start working on a Cooey book. Cooeys that have been molested and confiscated.
Cooeys of crime.
Cooey crime guns of Canada.
Yes. I do believe
that would look good. Some of those like photos that you see are just creative.
I think we could do a fundraiser calendar. I think that's a possibility. In the chat, people, would you buy a cut up Cooey calendar? You could cause chimes in. What the fuck is a Cooey? So Yukikazi is an American, and a Cooey is a Canadian manufactured 20 sounds dirty. Cooey is not a dirty thing. It can be, but a Cooey was a Canadian manufactured firearm. They produced a lot of single shot 22s. Do believe they did shotguns and some repeating 22 rimfire rifles and some rifles. Very hunter-esque, traditional wooden stock, iron sight kind of rifles. So that is a Cooey.
They're kind of like our version of Winchester.
Yes.
And I believe Winchester bought them at one point. And then part of it became Lakefield, or someone bought Lakefield, and now that's Savage Arms in Ontario.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that Savage rimfires are still made in Canada.
It's pretty cool.
We should, we do have some Canadian manufacturers here. I
We
think.
do, absolutely. Unfortunately, like the December OIC took out some of the options, but yeah, we do still have definitely some good Canadian manufacturers here still left going.
Manufacturers, companies. It's too bad that there's not a rifle ammunition factory producing for Canadians.
I know.
But if you want to shoot shotgun, we got 2 of them.
Yep, absolutely.
got-
They're both in Eastern Canada, right?
I believe Score is in Manitoba,
Manitoba,
and
yes.
Challenger is in Quebec, I want to say.
Challenger is in Quebec, yes.
Anyway, we have some amazing manufacturers too off the top of my head. We've got MDT, we have KDEX, we have BCL, we have Kodiak, we have... Sorry, I forgot. There's more. Like PGW was a fantastic rifle builder for the longest time, supplying our military. Like, there's so many manufacturers that people can still support Canadian companies with. And Apex, Canadian company, Sterling. We have the R9. Like,
yeah,
it's funny. We were at SHOT Show, and it kind of seemed like, oh, everything's another AR-15. Everything is an AR-15 with this furniture.
okay.
Here we have the blessing of we've had to innovate, and we've actually come up with some cool designs on our own.
Yeah, that's true. Having to kind of don't want to say get around these rules because then they use that against us, but having to follow the laws and make a firearm that fits Canada law. Yeah, they get pretty creative.
Yeah, crypto, fantastically creative. Still hasn't been banned yet.
Yeah. So I want to
Okay.
kind of talk into the crypto situation. So essentially, the crypto is unique in that it's the only firearm I know that's designed post December 15th, 2023.
To the letter.
To the letter, in which essentially that is the date at which the definition for a prohibited firearm had changed.
Mm-hmm.
So as of right now, it plays ball with the rules they have set out. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Liberals are going to move the goalposts, because they're exceptionally good at moving goalposts. Like, they are high efficiency goalpost mover. However, it still remains to play to the letter of the rules. So the question remains is, if and how long are they going to abide by that rule set? Because there is the option for Canadian manufacturers to, I'll say, comply with the design features that the crypto has, in order to essentially reproduce firearms. Now, of course, obviously, an election imminent. The government is going to change to some extent.
Hopefully.
To what extent remains to be seen. But there's also the FRT thing.
Yes.
So it seems to me that a lot of the decisions made by the government has been decisions made by looking at FRTs of rifles in the known database. The crypto does not have an FRT. The Sterling Arms R9 does not have an FRT. Now the question is, are the Liberals taking the easy route and just looking at the documents they have and are oblivious to these firearms, which in competency I would definitely ascribe to the Liberals. However, it comes to the point is like, well, when do they actually step outside of their comfort zone and do a little bit more work and look into firearms that do not have FRTs?
Yeah, like you said, definitely FRT is kind of what they seem to be looking at, because a lot of the guns that you would think would be captured, thankfully don't have the FRT. So I don't know if they're necessarily oblivious or if they're just kind of saving those for later.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of doing the easy work first, capturing everything that's on the FRT, everything that's easy for them to say, this is what this gun is. And then things that aren't on the FRT yet, if we don't get the change of government that we need, or if they decide they need to do more damage before they're hopefully on their way out. I don't know.
Yeah.
One can hope.
So
Have you-
that's
It's a
oh, go
different
ahead,
world.
Mike.
Sorry, I want to talk. Have you, Jen? Have you heard anything?
Mike's got the squirrels running around in his cage.
Like you go talking, and then I'm like, I have a really great thought, and then when I get to say it, I forget it. So, Jen, have you had any contact with, say, like American like manufacturers or like the NSSF style groups or Europeans or other countries saying, how do we get into Canada? Like new people.
Not really, because Canada's market is so small that people really aren't. I mean, NSSF, yeah, we've definitely worked with them in the past. So for people that don't know, NSSF is like the American CSAAA. They're the American Firearm and Hunting Business Organization, or Firearm Business Organization. We did, definitely share information with them for importing or exporting for them, but no, getting guns from Canada to the States.
Yes.
But still, the United States is kind of the major producer of firearms for a lot of these people, the largest market. So people aren't super keen to get into Canada. Our laws are changing so quickly also that a lot of people are a little more hesitant to even bother starting to trade into Canada because they don't know if the regulations are going to change. There's a lot of issues with the regulations being extremely hard to decipher. So, you'll get a lot of people contacting saying, like, is this even something that would be legal in Canada? So right now, with how bad the government is towards the firearms industry, people aren't very hungry to try and start trading with us that way.
So is this an initiative as us, the consumers, can start driving? Is we really need to get out and try XYZ that's not American? Like in Europe, trap, skeet are massive. Do we need as consumers to say, like, you know what, we need to maybe broaden our horizons? Like, okay, I lost my semi-auto. I need to go do
Totally.
something else.
Yes. So, and that's another thing. There's one of our board members deals a lot of muzzleloader, and he was sending me all of these documents quite recently about all of the different muzzleloader sports and trying to introduce that into ranges in Canada so that they have alternative income, because with PRS and with the handgun issues, like, ranges are feeling it too. Ammunition prices, or ammunition supply, people are buying far less ammunition now. So just anything to get people out, like try different sports, the skeet shooting, the trap shooting, muzzleloader sports, whatever. Yeah, I think we need to expand for now. We don't know when there's going to be a change of government. I mean, ever since Trudeau's non-resignation, Liberals, if you believe or follow the polls, Liberals have been doing a lot better in the polls than before Trudeau announced his intent to resign. So who even knows if we're going to get that majority government that we need? People need to start adapting. And a lot of stores have started to adapt. I mean, pivot in any way they can to, bring in different sort of revenues, different disciplines. So I think the consumers need to start pivoting also. I mean, not saying that's giving up, but just saying it's something in the meantime instead of your guns just sitting there collecting dust.
It's also interesting.
Let's get positive. Let's get positive for a second.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, your stuff is banned, but you've invested in it. Like, sometimes investments need to just kind of sit a little bit before they go up in value. This is a wonderful time to diversify your portfolio and maybe consider some new options.
Yes, 100%. I mean, and unfortunately, a lot of what I do here is ammo prices are a lot higher. People have less disposable income to spend right now anyway. So that is another factor, other than the fact that the guns we want to shoot are banned. Handguns aren't prohibited, but like, you can still use them at the range, but people are shooting way less. People are saying that ammo sales are down anywhere from like 40 to 60% for some stores compared to other years. Like when I go out to any matches or the range, there's way less participation than there used to be. So yeah, it's hard to see. I don't know if it's a combination of prohibitions, people getting discouraged, new people not being able to get into the sport, people not having money.
Yeah, and also there's that. I mean, you're for those with handguns, you are stuck with what you have. So
Yeah.
Fortunately, again, they may start to get, proverbially old. As much as they're still functional, the thing about firearms is the ability to cycle through, buy and sell different ones is a fun part of firearms ownership.
That was a big thing. Yeah. Like at the range, people just love to, buy and trade and sell, and you take your new gun to the range and you put a bunch of rounds through this new firearm that you purchased. You build it up, make it snazzy, do whatever you want with it, customize it, dial it in, and then let me sell this and get something else. Like try another model.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I had a friend in right before right after the freeze. His handgun developed a frame crack.
Oh no.
So unfortunately, essentially, he was obviously not be able to get a different frame to repair that. So even the fact that he had a handgun, just eventual wear and tear of a non-replaceable component has left him essentially one gun down.
Yeah, that's so shitty. And that's another thing that we, like, obviously the policymakers that, developed the mess that is Bill C-21 don't care. But when we were advocating against Bill C-21, that's another thing we said, like, people need to be able to at least replace parts for guns that they already have. And, you could just see the look in their eyes was like, I don't give a crap if they break their guns and can't use them anymore. I was actually volunteering at a parliamentary range day a couple of years ago. And I had brought my CZ Shadow 2 just for people to hold and try. And it was, political staffers that would come out and try all these firearms. And one of the girls, I was like trying to guide her through shooting. She takes a shot and she drops the gun. And the firing pin comes flying out of the back. Firing pin snapped. I take the gun apart and I'm like, oh, the firing pin's broken. Like, I'm done for the day. Thankfully, I have more firing pins. I can get more. But then I was like, you know what? I am not bringing my gun back for this, because you people that ban my guns are going to break my gun, and then it's going to be done forever.
Even worse.
Exactly. So. I was just like, just watching that gun hit the table. I was like, oh, you need to get out of my face. She was just like, oh my God, it was loud. I'm like, yeah. And you broke my gun. But of course you have to like smile and be like, oh yeah, no problem.
Yes.
See, guns are dangerous in the wrong hands.
People are dangerous.
Speaking of people, and speaking of growing the community, Canadian pilot Shannon's got an excellent comment.
Yeah.
Get them into the sport. Get your kids shooting.
100%.
If you don't have kids, have kids.
just have kids to get them like licensed. That's the only reason you need.
Or take the neighbor's kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Or take the neighbor's kids, but with permission. Otherwise, that's abduction. So, with permission, steal your neighbor's kids and get.
We do not need any more negative publicity.
Exactly. All these legal gun owners kidnapping children around the neighborhood to take them to the range. That's not a good look.
There's a soundbite for you. No, and we gotta grow the community. Like 100%. You have an active part. As much as you're like, I would love to give an organization money and them do all the work for me, which is, I think, how Canadians think the whole world works. It doesn't. You have to go do the work yourself sometimes.
100%.
Take one person to the range. Spring is coming. It's going to be nice. Take new people to the range who've never been.
National Range Days coming up. Like, yes. There you go. I mean, our range is doing an open house. We have people are interested in getting into it. I mean, I'm hosting a ladies' range day at the end of May. We just opened up registration. We've already got 250 women signed up to come and shoot.
Holy shit.
And yeah, like the comments I was seeing, like people are
Mhm.
so excited for this, and it sucks because then I'm also getting those email questions like, well, how can I get my handgun license? And I'm like, "Ugh, hate to break it to you.
Go
Vote
get your RPAL
conservative.
right now.
Yes,
Mhm.
Get your
Yes.
license now.
100%.
wait.
I see those comments too. People like, is it even worth me getting my RPAL? Yes, please go and get your RPAL.
Mhm.
There
Get
still
your
are
RPAL.
restricted firearms out there, rifles, and then once handguns are able to be purchased again, there's not going to be a big backlog at the CFO's office.
Mhm.
Well, it's not in the backlog. It's the backlog getting into the course.
Yes, that too, for sure. Oh my gosh, there's no courses.
Yeah.
There's
I
only
mean,
so
there
many
are, but
instructors.
that's it. And there conveniently doesn't seem to be that they're licensing any other instructors right now.
No, from what my understanding is they basically capped, like once you have, it's like a trap line in some areas. Once you have your territory, it's yours till you die,
Yeah,
which I thought was a really weird way to do it.
that would make sense. Because, I mean, there is one guy that, I mean, used to teach the courses and he literally died. And we just had a new guy pop up not long ago.
And I've even heard is it's like they're not letting instructors become instructors because like, well, this person's on the list and like he died 5 years ago.
He's not teaching too many people right now.
He hasn't been teaching for quite a while. I assure you, you could let somebody else give it a shot now.
I did submit an application like a couple of years ago for both the Hunter's Ed and the firearm safety, and I got a like letter back saying like we'll put you on the wait list when we need people in your area. We'll reach out. Followed up, like beginning of this year even because I'm like, you need people in the area yet? Because I'm getting lots of questions about courses, and yeah, nothing. They couldn't
I
care
like how
less.
they decide what the number of correct instructors is.
Right? I mean, it's not like that with any other industry.
It's like, I want my fireworks license. Okay, pay your fee, go get it. Like, that's it. It's very simple. For this, we have to nitpick every single detail that's not important.
Do we call that gatekeeping? Like,
Bureaucracy and gatekeeping.
yeah, 100%.
So you're hosting Ladies Range Day, which is awesome. What are your thoughts on this whole we're banning guns for the safety of women thing?
My goodness.
How does that make you feel?
Honestly, when I turned that announcement on March, what was it, March 7th? Turn that announcement on, and then I see them marching out all these women, and I'm just like, oh, here we friggin' go. And then of course they start right off the bat with, like as a mother, as a wife, as a woman in the community. And I'm like, ma'am, come on. Like, don't use us for this virtue signaling nonsense. Like, that this is just a BS announcement that is not going to protect any women. I mean, there's even women's groups that spoke out originally about the red and yellow flag laws saying that they don't quite work for them, so even those aren't accepted by the supposed experts. And yeah, it's honestly just a bunch of victims groups that I think are using women as a crutch to say like, we can do whatever we want, because if you speak out against this, then you're anti-women and like you want these women to be domestically abused or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Victimized by 1930s military surplus rifles.
Exactly. Like,
that are in the hands of an eccentric collector that loves to talk about them.
Don't go up there with your bleeding heart trying to say like, as a woman, when you damn well know what you're doing is not protecting women, and know that there are so many other things you could be doing with this money and these resources to actually make a difference. So yeah, that was really, really hard to hear. That entire announcement was hard to hear.
The whole thing just kind of strikes me as sexist.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
We believe women can do anything except that.
And I mean, some of those people won't even, say what a woman really is. So,
I mean, you might have to watch a documentary to figure out, but I'm sure someone can find a definition somewhere.
I should hope. No, that's it exactly though. I mean, in a time when we're supposed to say like women are equal, why are we using women as a crutch to prohibit firearms that, aren't realistically impacting them anyways?
And you can go into any community Facebook group, and I guarantee you, like every couple months, you're gonna see, is there a women's self defense class
Yes.
happening?
Those are big now. For sure. I mean, we'll just look at all the women that are, flocking to the ladies' range day. Women want to get out. Like I see them tagging their friends saying like, let's go as a group. I mean,
Mhm.
women want to shoot. They want to get involved in firearms. It's just, our government telling people otherwise.
Mhm. Boone chimes in. If only there was a way. If only there was a way.
No, it's for our safety. Take them all
Mhm.
away, right?
Yes.
That way, only
Jeez.
bad people will have them.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have in our very weird document known as the Canadian Constitution, we have the right to security of person. But obviously, we've found out that that's only security of person if we like that security of person,
Like,
not
we don't even allow pepper spray.
unbiased total security of the person. So,
It's crazy. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
last I checked, women are person. That's as far as I understand it.
I think so.
yeah, we
Wait,
kind of wrote about that a while back, so we changed that. So
We've come a long way.
another interesting fact about that press brief is they cited some statistics that gun violence has went down. But
Yeah.
the YouTuber Soapbox Guns, he actually did a really good video
Yeah, he's
on
great.
this, and he shows the line going up and going up and going up, and then last year did it ever so slightly, and they're like, "Yeah,
Oh, there we go. It moved.
That's it. That's us. It's gone down, even though it's gone up multiple percentage points
Skyrocketed over
every
the past
single
5 years.
year."
Absolutely. It's gone
Like-
down. What a scraping the bottom of the barrel that was.
Mhm.
Like even your criteria, like it was like it went down because the guys weren't wearing as many blue shirts as green shirts. Like, what are we defining as the statistic? I'm like, obviously it's going up. There's no question.
I mean, every day you look in the news and there's a new shooting, and it's always these repeat offenders. I mean,
They're saying in BC there was like 40 dudes or people got arrested 6,000 times in a year.
yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Like, who is letting them out?
And I mean, everybody's aware of it. Like you go on Twitter and you see a new post, police saying so and so arrested for assault and battery, or, shooting up a house, break and enter, and everyone's just like, "Oh, well, they're going to be out in no time. Like doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Why even bother arresting them?"
Suspect had breached conditions of bail, breached conditions of this, breached firearms prohibition order, breached order to leave certain area, breached this, breached that. So,
But they're definitely going to follow the house arrest rules for sure.
mhm.
I mean, some of the houses they're living in BC, there was a multi-million-dollar mansion that just got raided. And there
Wow.
was so many guns in there.
Oh, really?
So it's not just little crack houses anymore. They are moving on up
They are
to
going
the
places.
multi-million-dollar mansion.
Jeez. That's whenever people are really going to start raising hell over things, because once you I feel like they see the little crack houses and like lower income areas and areas that they don't really care about, having these issues, and they're just like, whatever. When it starts to peek into their own community.
Like, they're making all that tax-free cash, or they're obviously going to upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we don't have to be here. We can go over there with the nice trees and the view of the lake. Why are we sticking around here?
Yep.
I think we as Canadians need to maybe not rest on our laurels as much and realize this is not the same country as it was 20 years ago.
It really, really isn't. I mean,
and some laws may need to change.
Most certainly. It's not the same country it was. I mean, not
10 years
just because of the Liberals, but 10 years ago. Like, I think things have drastically changed over the last 10 years.
I mean, that's kind of the problem with our laws is you're trying to turn a shipping container, it is not going to turn like a speedboat. And for gun owners, that's kind of lucky that government can't legislate as fast as they want to. That's kind of one of the
Yeah.
saving graces is saved by government incompetence.
Yeah. It just sucks that it is getting easier for them to legislate as they want to now that, Trudeau kind of stacked the Senate with more liberal leaning senators and, they seem to use the OIC like it's going out of style.
I don't think that OIC genie is going back in that bottle.
Oh, God, no, they love that.
That was by far abused by almost anybody's standard.
Totally.
Like it was for like, we need to change the flagpole from 32 feet to 34 feet because of the trees or something. Like that's what that's for. Instead of, Mr. Speaker, the flag has been 32 feet for so many years and we must raise it. Like, we don't need to do the whole question period pass along. It's like, OIC. That's what it's for. Not, well, this is convenient, so we're just going to use it.
Well, and I mean, if they're saying it's because of, the fact that these guns are so dangerous, none of these guns are taken out of our homes yet. I mean, why they're so dangerous, but we've held on to them for the last 5 years. You guys can trust us to hold on to them. We can't even take them to the range. Like,
Yes.
The one talking point they may have is that this time they actually did ban military firearms.
I know. I was looking through
think
that
that's
list.
part of why they did it.
I know, because everybody was just like, these aren't military. Like, no militaries use these. Ukraine's not going to want these because they're not military. Now, to anybody that doesn't know any better, I mean, they are military firearms, but they're going to say like, oh yeah, like these are weapons of war. These are so dangerous.
Like, and
Yes.
some of them legitimately were weapons of war, which is
Yeah.
the part that sucks because they now can easily debunk that soundbite.
That's why I was a little bit surprised that they didn't touch the SKS because I was like, oh, that's like a.
That is a sacred cow they're not going to slaughter. That and the Valmet, they're not going to touch them at all. Considering the Canadian government bought the Valmets for the communities.
I feel like the SKS, I don't know. I feel like they're saving it for something.
That like
Yeah,
there's the wall of in case dumb political thing break glass. That's like way at the very end.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I mean, and like you guys said, going into an election, they don't want to upset the Indigenous community. I mean, maybe they should start helping them out a little bit more rather than just, not banning their primary hunting rifle.
I do like to see that the hunting community and like the gun nerd shooting community is kind of,
yeah, we're all coming together now.
it's like, they're that's the IPSC people. I don't want to hang out with them. I will make fun of them for them all wearing the really tight shorts, and I will die on that hill because it's funny and they all do it.
Yes.
But like, yeah, I can't shoot a pistol, but I would like to at some point shoot IPSC.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it's available. It's not like we're avoiding each other. We're kind of getting on the same page.
We're all dealing with the same thing. And I mean, I do hope that more and more people realize that. I mean, I think it's so wild. Of course, like whenever I was sports shooting, I did IPSC. The IDPA guys make fun of the IPSC guys. IPSC guys make fun of IDPA, but it's all in good fun.
Exactly.
But I mean, yeah, on the grand scheme of things, people used to be like, well, it doesn't impact my gun. I don't care. Or you'd get those diehard hunters who think that nobody needs an AR. And I think the tides are definitely changing quickly there because people are learning, more information's coming out. They're seeing that, the AR that I have that was prohibited is really no different than the hunting rifle he's got that's not prohibited and might be prohibited in the next round. So hopefully it's bringing more people together. I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, if they wanted Canadians to buy less guns, you would have made the AR-10 completely legal because, in theory, you can pop the upper off. You can put a 22 250, a 308, a 6.5 Creedmoor on one rifle. You would have been selling less guns in Canada, leaving that non-restricted. I know a ton of people that wanted to hunt with their Stag 10s in the worst way.
Yeah. They do seem to like to, promote gun sales at least. Like, look at how much gun sales skyrocketed for handguns whenever they announced the freeze. And every time people think that a new OIC is coming, gun stores see quite the lineup. When the tariffs were first threatened to come through. I think that weekend, stores were seeing lineups of people not understanding that it wasn't going to hit like those products right that second, trying to buy before tariffs hit. So they are good at promoting sales for a little while.
When the handgun thing was happening, if I had $1 for every time someone said, "Can you find me this handgun?" and I found it for them and it was in stock, I could have bought probably 2 more handguns.
Oh my God.
It's like which goes back to all the little family-based businesses. I'm like, I know this small shop over there. They probably have one, and they don't have a great website.
Yeah, that's it too. A lot of these like little mom and pop shops are. I mean, there's one guy I deal with. He doesn't even deal with email. Like a gun store really close to me. He's a member of ours, and I print him out like our newsletters and stuff and mail them to him because he does not deal with email. Like he's got a gun shop, does what he's got to do, and screw technology.
Yeah, here's a phone number, here's an address.
That's exactly what it is.
That's how you contact me. These are the store hours. I'll be there.
He renews his membership when I see him at the trade show because it's face to face. And the first time I met him, I asked him for his email and he looked at me like I was a nutcase. And was like, I don't use that crap. So a lot, but yeah, like going back to that, a lot of the mom and pop stores are very like limited website, but they might have an amazing store with great stock.
Yeah, definitely.
As my grandpa put it, I don't do that .com thing.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm a little bit envious of those people.
That's one thing as younger gun owners, we all need to get that out there. Hang out with old guys that know a lot of stuff, because that information will be lost to time if we do not retain it.
I was going to say that information is not going up on the Google machine. Like, you're not going to find it. It's in their heads and it's going to die with them.
Yeah.
It dies with them, or it's in some musty corner of a library somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some dirty old notebook that their kids are going to go through when they die and be like, I don't know what the hell this is. Let me toss it.
Yeah. Some bookshelf by the reloading bench that's got some obscure manuals and books that
formulas and ideas. And
yeah. One thing I wanted to touch on too
go ahead,
is this is relevant to all our Alberta peeps. We actually had the Wildlife Act amended in Alberta. So some of the highlights are is that one thing that technically in the old legislation, a wheelchair was technically a vehicle and you cannot hunt from a vehicle. So they thankfully righted that. So a wheelchair is no longer a vehicle.
Amazing. So
those in wheelchairs won't be arrested for hunting out of that wheelchair.
I had completely forgot about that regulation. I think I heard about it whenever I first took my hunter's ed course, because there was like a lot of talk about that, how crazy that was. That's great that they finally changed that.
Yeah,
imagine being the Fish and Wildlife guy issuing that ticket.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
I think that would be one of the times where it's like, he was sitting down in a chair, not a wheelchair. I think that's one of those ones where it's like, yeah, that's not to the...
You're going to be shamed if you write that ticket. Like, you can't show your face around town anymore if you write that ticket.
Yeah, that's not the intent of the law. The intent is, F-150 buddy shooting from the hood.
Exactly. Buddy driving up the road, like, spots a deer, slams on the brakes.
Yes, that's a little
bombing
bit more...
through the woods in your four-wheeler, that kind of deal. That's what that's meant for.
Yeah. The legislation would also allow certain youngsters to be less supervised while hunting. It also expanded on the use of the electronic tags and clarified some of the electronic tagging process. So that is also interesting. Hopefully that is user-friendly. Chances are Mike and I will find out this year what that actually means in practice. So that would be good. It also clarifies who a resident is It also, interestingly enough, allows use of lasers in sighting, like a visible laser for the use in hunting.
Really?
Now, I'm not sure who was asking for that, but in the legislation, let's just see. I'm just scrolling through it again.
That is very interesting.
The use of a light is still prohibited.
Okay.
So obviously you can't,
Spotlight or anything.
spotlight them. However, allegedly, if you have a visible laser, that is fine as well. The act also changes, for example, so cougar and black bear, it used to be that one had to process the hide of the animal. The animal still has to be taken for meat, but those meat hunters no longer have to process the hide.
Okay.
If that's not the intent. They still have to take certain parts, certain quarters. However, if you don't want the fifth bear rug, you can let that pelt go, return to nature instead of paying to have that processed. So,
Or having it sit in your freezer for 3 years until
yes, or yeah, exactly, until eventually
you get
something-
tired of it and try and do it yourself. And
yeah, something happens to it. So those are some of the highlights. Those are basically the main ones.
did you guys have the electronic or digital tags before this?
All paper.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Still-
had digital tags that started a couple of years ago for us, and every year people have so many issues printing it because like we have a rule where you can only print it once, of course, but most of the time I find for me and for a lot of people I talk to, the website seems to kind of mess up that one time you're supposed to print it, so you have to call in, get them to reinstate it, and then it finally works. So that's the only thing that's been a little bit of an issue.
Okay.
I mean, lost
very
revenue for the
tedious.
province. Just like, you know what? First print is free. If you need another print, $5.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, give people the option. Like, if you lost it for whatever reason, you can still get it, and make it simple.
That's it. Yeah, without having to kind of call in and wait and go through all this nonsense. And yeah, I mean, I went to print off my license summary that had my turkey tag on it. Print out the license summary, no turkey tag. So I go back to try and print the turkey tag since it's already been printed. Like, come on.
Oh no.
So had to, call in, wait for them to sort of refresh my account or tag or whatever, and finally got it to print. But yeah, there's just always something.
This is like electronic tags. Is it going to get to the point where instead of a tag you put on the animal, you just be like selfie with the animal? And that's
I
good enough,
know. Face scanning, and I mean, I take a picture of my cat with my phone and it identifies what kind of animal it is. So
I have a bit of knowledge on taking photos of wildlife. For those that don't know, there is a federal department, and some of their job is to go through your Instagram, and they are able to tell where you are, what time the animal was shot, and the rough time, location, date, all of that, based on like measuring certain things in the photo. That is a federal employee's job. So I think it was like cyber forensics or something.
I've heard that.
It is real. So if you're gonna post pictures online, just be wary that is something that they are actually looking for now.
That exists.
It exists, and it's kind of creepy, but
Soon enough, they're going to have like AI scanning for makes and models of guns and be like, hey, back in 2019, Jen had this gun and now it's prohibited.
Where is that?
I definitely sold it.
Yeah, sold it. Yeah.
Sold it at a gun show.
Yep. Absolutely.
I miss the old days of the gun show where it's like as many people are walking in as they are out.
I know they used to be packed, like those hallways and all those gun shows, and you didn't have to worry about the reference numbers. Now, so many of those old guys that were like the main vendors at a lot of these like private gun shows and stuff, they're just like, I'm not going to bother with the reference number nonsense, so they don't even show up anymore.
We're lucky out west because the CFO will actually send people.
I was
to
gonna
the show.
say, yeah, I was
Mhm.
talking to Dr. Bryant I think it was either last week or the week before, and she said that yeah, she sends staff out, she'll go out herself, like to make sure that there's support for all the vendors. I wish our CFO was half as, firearms friendly as that.
Don't even have to be friendly. Just send the minions out to go do
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Get some summer students. I don't know. It's not rocket science.
It's literally filling out forms. It's not like it's dangerous.
Yeah, 100%.
That's arguably one of the safest places to be.
Absolutely, it is. No, for sure. I mean, yeah, the whole reference number thing is another huge nightmare that businesses deal with. I got an email before coming on here that the web portal that they need to do these transfers and reference numbers is going to be down again for a couple of hours this weekend for maintenance. And of course, in that time, businesses are kind of stranded. Like they're supposed to have a call-in number, but there's not always somebody available at that on-call number. And on weekends, the actual phone system's completely down. So really, those mornings, I always get so many calls and emails from gun stores being like, I've got customers here looking to buy and I can't process reference numbers. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Yeah, that's a death by bureaucracy.
Yes.
So
Unlike the government 9 to 5, a lot of people still work on Saturday. Gun
Well-
shops, I would argue that's their busiest day.
And that's what we said to them whenever we met with CFP, like the Canadian Firearms Program. I'm like, people that are buying guns work for a living. They're going in on Saturdays because they're, for the most part, a lot of them not working Saturdays. Early mornings, busy time. It's always, and around hunting season too, I find that portal goes down all the time when they need to do these transfers. Yeah, just because the government works banker hours or less than doesn't really mean the rest of the world functions that way.
You can still work the banker hours, just take Sunday, Monday off.
Yeah.
Be surprised how
Just
convenient having a Monday off is.
Oh, I bet.
When it's not a holiday, you
Just-
can go do everything. Go ahead, Derek.
just to cap off the Alberta Wildlife Act changes.
Yeah.
So some other changes that have been made. So previously, ammunition of less than .23 caliber was prohibited for hunting big game. So 223, 556 was out of the question in Alberta. That it has been substituted by now of centerfire ammunition of less than 22 caliber, so that you are now allowed to use 223, 556. So that is a little bit of a change, and also bow weight. Minimum bow weight of 40 pounds has now been reduced to 35 pounds of draw weight. So a little bit better for those that
helps
like
the more petite hunters. And
yes, like a little bit of a lighter pull. So
It's not just petite hunters. It's those of us who have injured ourselves to the point of I can't use my bow anymore.
yeah,
yes,
for sure. When any of us start to get a little bit older and our bones and muscles and limbs don't work like they used to.
yes. Yukikazi chimes in. Alberta sounds like a terrible place. Alberta is actually a very nice place.
It is, yeah, one of the better provinces, one of the
Yes.
less restrictive provinces than,
Yes.
Ontario. Oh, it's rough out here.
Yeah.
The fishing is pretty good in Ontario, though.
Depending on where you go, yeah, not bad. Quebec, I'm right on the Quebec border. Fishing in Quebec is phenomenal. Absolutely.
My biggest complaint in Ontario was the out-of-province license fee was ridiculous.
Really? What was it?
It's like $140 because they do it by like the
That's
zones.
not fair.
So I had a problem. I'm like, it's gonna cost me $140 because I was basically on the border of 3 of them.
Okay.
That was my understanding. Like, this is I like to fish. I don't like to fish that much.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to spend that much to come out for sure. No, the fishing's not bad. And I mean, we got turkey season here, so that's great.
What's it like hunting turkey?
It is the most fun ever. It's crazy when you sit out there opening day and it's still dark and you hear the toms like gobbling all around you because they get so active. Last season I walked in opening morning, it was still dark, and right above where I sit there was like a branch sticking out, and I saw a big tom sitting up on that branch right above where I sit. So I kind of like took the long way around in the field to nestle underneath him, and I could just hear him gobbling the entire time. And then once shooting light opened, he flew down on the other side, of course, not in front of me. But they're just so responsive. So you'll be, calling or gobbling or throw a crow call, and you hear them gobble back. And I had 3 toms come in that day. I harvested 1. We're allowed to harvest 2 in the springtime. But it's just so exciting. There's just so many different tones and clucks, and they're really stupid but really smart at the same time. A lot of people compare it to elk hunting.
Oh, I love me some elk hunting.
I've heard a lot of people compare it to elk hunting. I've never hunted elk. I'd love to one day, but yeah, I know turkey hunting's definitely one of my favorites.
It's just wild to think that there's turkeys running around to me because they will not survive here.
I guess, you guys probably
think-
get too much snow, and
I think down south, because southern prairies get a lot less snow.
okay.
But at the same time, I think they've tried to release them and they just can't make it.
I have heard that the majority of the flock that's born in the spring dies in the wintertime because of the snow. They can't jump up on the perches, so then they end up, suffocating under the snow. I've seen our turkey population right now is crazy, and we've got so much snow. I don't know how they all made it through the winter, but I'm glad they did, because come end of April, it's going to be great. Hopefully.
Yukikaze chimes in. I used to have a harem of 18 turkeys in my backyard. Our dogs love to chase them up trees. Good times. That is an interesting choice of word.
Yeah.
Harem. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to further comment. So,
some people have access to a thesaurus. That's all that was.
A herd of
because you
turkeys.
can doesn't mean you should. So,
what is the correct name for a group of turkeys?
Is it a flock?
I don't know. Murder of crows.
A murder of
geese.
crows, yeah.
Yeah, they have like them weird
Yukikaze
little
chimes in.
names.
They are literally called
well,
a harem.
Look at us. I'm looking it up.
A
The more you
congress
know.
of baboons. I'm still skeptical of what Yuka's saying here.
Well,
It's
now
it's a
Dr.
statement, or
Google's
that's
saying,
actually
yeah, Dr. Google says it's called a rafter. A group of turkeys is called a rafter.
Okay.
I don't know. A rafter or a flock.
Okay. I've
So-
not heard rafter, but okay.
I've always said flock or herd if I'm just kind of like
Yes.
being an idiot, but
I think you need to switch to rafter just to confuse people.
I know. And then I can be like, look it up. It's real. It's a real term.
All right. I think we've covered a few things here today. Is there anything trade or tariff related that we didn't touch on that you should mention?
Not that I can think of. People, go buy what you can now because we don't know how long these tariffs are going to last.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's, just so uncertain and changing so quickly that the industry is just on hold right now, waiting for the government to move. So,
Mhm.
yeah, just be patient and courteous to your local gun dealer.
Excellent.
fork a few extra dollars their way if you get a nice tax return this year.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good idea. So
Go buy yourself a different gun, try a different discipline.
Different
good
discipline.
advice.
Get into reloading, because like that's a whole rabbit hole unto itself. Is just shot shell reloading. Never done it. Gonna try it this year. I managed to find a progressive 12 gauge press. So gonna give that a whirl this year.
Exciting.
It's been collecting dust for how many years?
2. I finally have the parts to like get it.
This
running,
year
'cause
is the year.
This is the year. This is the year of the shotgun.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Derek, you can.
I'll do some closing out. We'll do a real quick plug here for Storied Knives. Folks, working the YouTube grind pays less than a solar project in a blizzard. So if you want to support the show directly, head on over to storiedknives.com or CDN Precision if you're in the eastern half of Canada, and pick up one of our gardener knives. We think this is one of the best survival type everyday flex blade knives available for a very reasonable cost. We're pretty proud of it, so please have a look at a great knife. We're confident it'll be on your side for a lifetime. And before we do the final closing comments, I'm just gonna extend a opportunity for Jenn to tell people where they can find you, what you do, and you have season 2 of your podcast out.
Yeah. Thank you. So I am on most of the platforms: Instagram, Facebook, X, which was formerly Twitter, under Jenn DVC, or Jenn McDonald, or Jenn Gadbois, because I can't change my name on Facebook because I post too many gun things. And then, I'm managing director of CSAAA, so I execute all of the board's hard work and ideas for the industry organization in Canada. And then Horrible People podcast. Yeah, that's out now. It's going to, follow through as a weekly podcast. 52 weeks in a year? 52.
Something like that. Close enough.
52 weeks. It started out as a podcast where I would interview hunters and sports shooters, just trying to show the world that, we're not horrible people. And then it expanded further. So I've got fur farmers coming on, trophy hunters coming on. I've got a few people that work in law enforcement, because of course that's another career that's kind of been scrutinized over the past few years.
Big stipulation.
For sure. Female law enforcement, people of different, sexual orientations, everything, just anybody that's been, made to feel different or treated like a horrible person because of the way they live or their point of views. And it's a fun little way to learn more about people that you would normally maybe question, or the media tries to tell you aren't so great.
Excellent. Well, go check it out on all of the podcast platforms.
Wherever you listen.
I'm sure we can shove a link in a description too, just for those that are
maybe Mike, you do that. I
will figure that out.
I'll hit the closing comments. A massive thank you again to our guest Jenn for coming on, and a massive thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we wouldn't have our show in the first place. We're talking about Shane and Steve with EM Precision Rifles, Miles, Carrie, and Cappy with call sign 66, Duncan and Rob at Bolt Action Copy, Phil Odell at Odell Engineering, Doug and Nisa with March Scopes Canada, Vanya and Carly with Apex Optics, Oscar with Ribstone Gunsmithing, and J.R. Cox with Sterling Arms International. Thank you all in a measurable amount, and thank you to our listeners. And with that, if I have the outro queued up, au revoir, good day, goodbye, thank you, and peace and love.
But some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it. which is a heat-seeking device.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Welcome to your weekly dose of BS, the Ballistically Speaking podcast.